Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for listening in and viewing our virtual town hall. I gathered everyone here today because I believe it is important for our city to see all of us on the same page and on a united front in leading this city through the COVID-19 pandemic. I honor that this is a very stressful time for our entire city. I just want our constituents to know that we hear you and we are working to provide the city with as many resources as possible. I want to tell you that your stress and anxiety is normal. And even under normal conditions, stress and anxiety can be traumatic. I want to encourage our citizens to stay inside as much as possible, only leaving your homes for essential reasons. I understand that the need for exercise and just fresh air in general is helpful to morale. I only ask that we remain 6 feet apart, wear masks, and do not congregate in groups. I've heard from residents about different parties around the city, and I remind residents, although birthdays and celebrations are life functions that bring excitement and joy, I ask that you hold off at this time. The governor has increased social distancing fines from $500 to $1,000. Although this is a time of great financial burden for your own safety and for ours, we will have to enforce the law. There's no moratorium on rents coming down from the governor's office at this time, but I do ask landlords to work with your tenants, especially our storefront renters, those out of work, and our first responders. I know you as property owners have payments and deadlines to make as well, but it will be more beneficial to the entire community to work with those in need. Not saving our business community would be a personal tragedy for shop owners and a tragedy for the vibrancy of Hudson. We are at the point of a shared risk, shared reward community. A risk by everyone is a reward for everyone's future. I lead by example, and I tried to do this when I suspended alternate parking and parking meters alongside our city, even knowing the revenue that it would be bringing in at this time. We are working collectively to provide what we hope will be a continuum of support for small businesses. They are an integral part of our makeup of our community, and let's face it, a huge part of our tax base. We have information on the city website on various programs. I also have Mike Tucker on this panel as well from the Columbia Economic Development Corporation. I was very happy to play a part of 2 initiatives put forward. I thank Assemblywomen Dee Dee Barrett and the Berkshire Taconic Foundation. Even my name, I also want to reiterate that this is all for just the beginning. We must continue on our efforts, and this we understand will not be enough. I received a number of calls and emails regarding the tourism funds. The city cannot provide any grants or loans. There has to be legally an exchange of services. I'm asking the board to work closely with our business community and create innovative ways to help. I believe in this board and their leadership and all of its members. I invited Common Council President Tom DePietro to speak more on this issue. I believe the more productive dialogue and transparency we have, the more we can accomplish. Thank you for tuning in, and now would like our panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Common Council President Tom DePietro. Tom, are you there? You're on mute. You gotta unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. So I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. I want you to know that the council has continued to be active during this crisis. For example, John Rosenthal and others are busy drafting the revised short-term rental law. Rebecca Wolf and others have been listening to presentations by potential short-term compliance companies. So soon we will select that company, and the new regulation will be accompanied by solid enforcement. As Kamal mentioned, many are interested in the tourism board, which has a dedicated fund of over $400,000. First of all, the city has postponed collecting the tax for the last quarter of December, January, and February. so it's not even fully funded yet. But many have asked, as Kamal mentioned, can we use this money for grants or loans to local businesses? We've researched this thoroughly with our attorneys, with the New York Council on Mayors, and we are prevented by the state constitution from dispersing monies in any direct way. But I'm not giving up. We're considering ways to use that money to revive tourism when we can in the future. These details will evolve at the Tourism Board meeting, which will be held on October 17th at 5 p.m. And the chair, Calvin Lewis, has been preparing for that meeting. Speaking of meetings, the formal and informal meetings of the council will be held on April 13th and 21st, but they will be conducted in accordance with the revised open meetings laws as announced in an executive order by the governor. According to that executive order, the public does not have to be physically present for meetings, but there are other requirements. The meetings have to be live streamed, which, by the way, we've been doing since January, so we were well prepared for this. WGXC 90.7 has provided us with a link which you can access from the council's webpage, or you can get it through your own devices. Also, we are required to provide a full transcript within a reasonable time frame after the meeting. I will personally be providing the stream to each council meeting, so you may submit questions to me in real time at councilpres@cityofhudson.org. You can also call me. That's my cell phone, 914-584-5373. Finally, let me tell you about a few things council members have been doing during the crisis that aren't actually part of their official business. Third Ward Councilman Lewis and Mizan have distributed masks, and Calvin Lewis has helped make deliveries with the Office of the Aging. First Ward Councilman Garriga has also provided masks to the needy at Bliss Towers. Councilmember Moranti has distributed flyers throughout his neighborhood in the early stages before the lockdown. And he and Councilmember Tromley have made donations to the Friends of Hudson Youth in support of food deliveries. Which brings me to my final point. If you are fortunate enough to be able to make financial donations, contact Friends, the Friends of Hudson Youth, and there's their website, or the Berkshire Taconic Community Fund, which Mike Tucker will explain to you. They can designate funds to go directly to the Hudson business community. Finally, your health matters most of all, and your council cares. Here's my number again. Call me if you need me. Thanks, Kamal.
Yeah, Tom, I just want to thank you for that information, but I believe you said October 17th. I think you meant April.
April 17th.
Yes.
Yeah, I delayed it for now. Thank you. Thanks for catching that.
Yes. So also on the panel, we have Jack Mabb from the Department of Health. Jack, if you wanted to just give an overview of COVID-19 in and around our city.
Okay, well, thanks for having me, Kamal, and I'm glad to be here and present some of the numbers that we've been working with. To date, we've tested over 580 people, and I say we. The department up until recently didn't have test kits. These folks, the 581, were being tested at some 30 different sites in the area, from Ulster County, Albany County, Dutchess County now has an open site. Columbia Memorial accounted for the largest block of that 581, approximately 160 of those tests. We have 83 people who are positive at this point. And I think last week we talked, I had indicated there was 11 folks from the city of Hudson. I was not correct on that because that's the area, that's the zip code 12534. You actually, as of today, we have 10 people in the city of Hudson who are positive for the virus. The other 5 were the town of Greenport. So that's some rough numbers. We also, we do have a house where we have a young lady and her children quarantined to separate her out from folks that are suspect COVID positive. We're following 80 people in a mandatory quarantine situation and another 20 or 25 at this point, I think it is, who are precautionary quarantine, and those require daily contacts. Our positives, we actually go to their homes on a daily basis. So it's a pretty busy time for my communicable disease department. So that's the numbers on the day, and certainly hang on for any questions that anybody might have.
All right. Thank you, Jack. I also wanted to bring in Chairman of the County Supervisors, Matt Murell, if you can give some remarks on the county level.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I appreciate you inviting Columbia County to be a part of this town meeting. As you know, this has been a Herculean effort. I know Columbia County, on March 16th, we opened up our Emergency Operations Center, headed up by our Emergency Management Director, David Harrison, who is also on this line and available to answer questions. We've done a lot in terms of trying to educate the public on social distancing. We've done a lot in terms of, actually, we've gotten a lot of donations from the public, which we're using to purchase test kits so that we could test more people. Robert Lagonia, who is our Health and Human Services Chairman for the County Board of Supervisors, has done a lot of work on this committee and has actually gotten several hundred masks donated. The Sheriff's Department has been very active, whether it's been delivering meals to people, assisting our first responders, getting masks as well. The Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Bartlett have stepped up. So this has been a team effort on the part of Columbia County in terms of trying to get the word out, trying to get money in to increase our testing, educate people on social distancing, and also getting PPE, which is a problem for our first responders, our hospitals, and our nursing homes. So we're continuing to work. We have a conference call every day. I know that Director Harrison has a conference call with Director of Emergency Management Services and the rescue squads every day at, I believe it's 10 a.m. and then 11 a.m. the EOC has a conference call where we sort of brainstorm and talk about the issues of the day. So this is an ongoing effort, which I assume is going to continue for quite a long time. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to move on now to Mike Tucker.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you and Chairman Murell and the other panelists for having Columbia Economic Development Corporation participate today. Over the last 3 weeks, we have worked diligently to ensure that our website is up to date on all the state and federal and local programs to assist businesses in Hudson and throughout the county. We have worked in partnership with the Columbia County Chamber, the Hudson Business Coalition, the Hudson Development Corporation, our elected officials, both in the city and the county and in the towns throughout the county. We have had numerous one-on-one calls and fielded requests from businesses who are really suffering from the impacts of this crisis and the uncertainty that has resulted from it, and the fact that the programs to address these issues are being developed on the run. And so we continue to update our information at columbiaedc.com and are happy to have you go there and contact us with individual questions. We have specifically been working on a number of the federal programs, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Programs, the Emergency Express Loan Advances, the Paycheck Protection Plan, which, as many of you know, allow businesses to apply for funds to be able to pay employees for an 8-week period from the time they receive the loan through June 30th. The Employee Retention Credit for businesses that don't qualify for the Paycheck Protection Plan, as well as unemployment benefits that have been extended by the state, not only in terms of the amount of benefits that individuals can receive, but through their shared workforce program, where if your employer is able to keep you part-time, you can receive benefits for the days that you're not working. As Council President mentioned, we have been working with the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, as well as our other partners, in creating a countywide small business loan continuity fund. To date, we have raised approximately $160,000. We have over 80 applications from throughout the county. And this program is designed to support businesses in our town centers, primarily in the retail arena, so that we can hopefully continue to keep those town centers in our business districts in the city alive and vibrant throughout this process and when the crisis ends. The deadline for applications is next week from yesterday. The deadline is Wednesday, April 15th. The governor extended the date for income tax, but if you can remember, April 15th at 4 p.m. and you can apply for this if you meet the criteria. The criteria is you're in business a year, you have under 10 full-time employees, you made less than $1 million in gross sales last year, and that you need funding to help pay employees or pay operating expenses for your business. There are a couple of other criteria, and I encourage you to check on the website. For those who don't qualify, CEDC does provide small business loans, both through the SBA and through a county administered loan fund. We're looking to provide loans to businesses and to help you bridge the gap between the loss of revenue from being in a forced shutdown or losing demand until the other federal and state programs are available. Again, please feel free to contact us, Columbia EDC. Our staff is working diligently from home, and we'd be happy to help you on a one-on-one basis with respect to whatever issues you're facing. Thank you again, and I'll turn the floor back over to the mayor.
Thank you. I believe the Sheriff Bartlett is also on the panel. Sheriff Bartlett, if you want to give quick remarks on the law enforcement side.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for having us here today. Number one, I'd just like to start out with just for everyone to be safe. Your first responders are really working hard to make sure our community is a safe place. And they're flat out as far as pedal to the metal. Law enforcement wise, we're still continuing our mission, and we are coordinating our efforts with our local police departments, the City of Hudson Police Department, the State Police. We've actually met several weeks ago when this was first starting to develop a plan in the event that one of the agencies developed a bunch of people with COVID-19 and went down. Captain Kolb, Chief Moore, and myself, we do have a plan together right now if something was to happen, so there wouldn't be any decrease in coverage. The same as in the corrections facility. We've got a plan with Greene, Rensselaer, Warren, Washington, and Montgomery County sheriffs. In the event something was to happen there, they could deploy resources here for corrections and or for law enforcement. So it's a really good combined effort that we have going on. And there's so many more things going on than just the law enforcement mission. We've been out helping with supplies. We're working hand in hand with emergency management. We're begging, borrowing, and stealing from wherever we can get stuff, basically, trying to keep our first responders safe. We actually did a couple of squad transports one day because the EMS was overwhelmed. And we've got a great community here in Columbia County and the City of Hudson. And we'll just keep working hard, and forums such as this is so very important to have. And Mayor, I appreciate you setting this up, and thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions at the end, I'd be glad to answer them.
PJ Keeler, County Treasurer, if you wanted to say some remarks before we get into some questions as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I think I wear a couple of hats, County Treasurer, and also I'm the EMS Coordinator. So let me speak first as County Treasurer. We know that this COVID pandemic is going to have a tremendous economic impact on not only the city, but the county and the country as a whole. We're aware of that. Chairman Murell has appointed a committee. We are going to be looking into so that we can address some of the situations that we know are going to occur. We're going to look at both from a revenue and an expense side to come up with some recommendations. As a city, you can certainly expect that your sales tax revenue will be decreasing. I know I get questions all the time. Well, how much is it going to be? How much is it going to be? Right now, our best guess, our best estimate, based on the $2 billion impact the state has projected, is probably a 10 or 11% hit to each municipality. So you can plan on that. My second hat is EMS coordinator. So let me just speak to a minute for the first responders that are out there from the ambulances and fire departments. Right now, as we speak, our ambulance call volume is actually down for everyday calls. I think this is due in part to most people staying at home. We have less traffic accidents, obviously, as well as other indications. Our COVID incidents, we had reached a peak about a week ago. There was about 8 suspected COVID patients throughout the county in one day. We actually went down to 0, and now we're averaging about 5 suspected COVID transports to the hospital every day. That presents an extended problem for those of us in EMS, in the fact that after each one of these suspected COVID transports, we have to decon both the staff and the ambulance. So it takes staff and an ambulance out for at least an hour every day. Our biggest concern right now would be the depletion of the workforce on the ambulances. We were at just about 0 when this pandemic started. As of today, we're up to about 11%. Now, that means that some of these people are either sick, just plain sick, or they're being quarantined. So when that level reaches about 25%, we will become very concerned. We've worked on backup plans that would include people from fire companies and first response agencies that would be willing to come in and drive an ambulance to help us out. We've changed many policies and procedures, and we're addressing it. We're working with the hospital. We're working especially, I want to give credit to the 911 center. They're working, I'll take a phrase from Dave, they're working their tails off every day to try to help out and help the first responders, both fire, police, and EMS, and address these issues. So we're working with them. We've instituted some new protocols there that it's called a pandemic protocol, which in turn monitors both the workforce depletion at the first responder level together with the hospital census and how many patients they can take. So again, I'll be around as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. David Harrison, if you just want to introduce yourself and kind of give people an introduction on what you do in your title.
Yes, Mayor, thank you very much. My name is David Harrison, Jr. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Columbia County. And we're the liaison with the state and federal governments as far as resources are concerned. And also, I want to say that we're kind of like the information clearinghouse for everyone who's dealing with this now. We've activated our Emergency Operations Center, which is at the Public Safety Facility. We have a physical presence there from 8 in the morning till 4 at night. And then we handle things virtually after that on off hours. So there's 24/7 someone thinking about and handling whatever issues may arise. One thing that I want to point out, there really isn't one plan or technique that is known to battle this virus. And it was a little unsettling when I heard my colleagues on the state and federal side say, you know, this is something that they've never dealt with before. So that's what we're dealing with. And the best weapon we have against this is to all work together, which is happening. I have to say that all the public officials on the town level, the mayors on the villages and the city of Hudson, the staff, everybody working together has really made a difference. We have to listen to what we're being told as far as social distancing. If we let up on that, it's not going to be a good thing. We could go right back to having more cases, more deaths, more hospitalizations. So I appreciate you putting this together. It's always good to get the information out there, and we will continue to support both the public officials and emergency services and the nursing homes and the hospitals, all of which we have daily continual contact with. We'll continue to do that every day. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you. And thank all of our panelists. The first set of questions that I'm going to get into were submitted beforehand, and I know we have some questions that'll come up throughout this forum. But this one, I guess, could be directed directly to Matt Murell and Jack Mabb. And it says, why is the Columbia County Department of Health withholding information about the number of COVID-19 cases in each municipality? The reason given seems to relate to patient privacy, but it would be more helpful for residents to know the numbers in their municipality. It could make social distancing more meaningful and imperative to those expected to practice it.
I'll just make a comment, then I can turn it over to Jack. But every Friday, we're releasing the number of cases that are in each municipality. So today at 4 o'clock, that number will be released. And every Friday thereafter, we started doing that, I believe, last week. So part of, and Jack can talk about patient confidentiality and so on, but part of it had to do with confidentiality of the patients. Jack?
Chairman, where is that information released?
It's released in the press release that I put out, or, well, no, I'm sorry, that the county health department puts out they put it out every day, but on Friday, we're going to talk about the towns and the numbers in each town.
Great.
But we can't get more specific than that, so.
Thank you. Jack?
Well, early on in the process, as we began to get cases, I was contacting individual supervisors and telling them that they had a case in their town. At one point, I did when City of Hudson had its first. I left a message for you as well. It just got to be, with everything else that was going on with here. This is a very complex issue. It got to be a little bit much, and I kind of, in its way, kind of set it aside and didn't do it. I did obviously today release numbers. There's 10 folks in the City of Hudson. As Chairman Murell indicated, we've agreed to every Friday update that list. It just takes some time to go through, and some of the zip codes we have to kind of work through because the 12534 obviously covers a number of towns. But we're committed to releasing that information every Friday.
The next question can be given to, I guess, myself and Common Council President Tom DePietro, and this is about property taxes, city taxes, and the deadline that's coming up on the 15th. On my end, I can say I had 2 phone calls with the governor's office this week, and I brought it up twice on each phone call. And basically they said that it's under consideration, but no information or determination has been given at this time. So, on my level, I will continue to push to make things easier, as easy as it can get for our residents and our property owners. So when I get more information from the governor's office, I will be, putting it out to the people.
Just to follow up on that, Kamal, as it's a constitutional statute that requires the time schedule, as well as a city charter regulation. So both would have to be revised in order to delay property tax payments.
Correct. Thank you, Tom. The next question, are there any plans for the Department of Health to put a freeze on Airbnb rentals and lodging in general during this time, when New York has not reached the apex of the coronavirus?
Well, that would be something that would come down from the state Department of Health. I don't believe, fairly certain that I don't have the authority to close Airbnbs or hotels, motels, or whatever. And I know that has been a conversation at the state level. And Chairman Murell, I know, was in on these conversations. Again, I don't believe we have the authority to do that.
Chairman, any follow-up?
Well, as we discussed last week when we had our pre-meeting, you know, it would be very hard for us to do. The governor's office actually stated that they are not going to restrict travel. So, and as I pointed out, several of the people from New York City that have come up here actually own property up here. So it's hard for them, you know, to tell them they can't go to a piece of property or a home that they own. In terms of the Airbnbs, it's just, you know, it's a tough issue because, you know, the county doesn't have the staff to control that. We can't have a roadblock at every entrance into the county or have people at the train station waiting for people. It's just a tough task for us to be able to control something like that. But
Yeah,
we have, just so you know, Mayor, we have asked that if people are entering the county from other counties, that they self-quarantine for 14 days. And we continue to press that. Every day I put the press release out, that is in there, that we keep reminding people. And we've actually put up electronic signs asking people if they're coming from out of county, especially the southern part of the state, that they should self-quarantine for 14 days.
Next question, I would say, would go to Jack Mabb as well. For people who have come in contact with the virus, how are you guys keeping track of if they're quarantined?
Okay, so there's two things. There's isolation. People who are positive for the virus are isolated. That's a legal difference with the quarantine. People who are positive have to receive a daily visit from us to confirm that they remain in their residence. Of course, if we do a 5-minute daily visit with them, that means that they're free to leave their home. You know, around that, because we can't manage that 24/7. We've had a few people who violated quarantine, and you know, as we all know, all communities are small communities, and there were people who turned them in, and in one instance, we actually had the sheriff go to their home and serve them papers indicating they needed to stay put. So if somebody's had contact with a known positive person, that's a mandatory quarantine. Those individuals receive daily phone calls from us twice a day where we're checking temperatures on them. And they're also expected to self-monitor when it comes to letting us know if there's changes in symptoms. You can be a mandatory quarantine and not have any symptoms because it takes 3 to 5 days for somebody to develop symptoms once they've had that contact with the virus. So somebody could be, you know, you could have run into somebody yesterday that is going to eventually give you the virus, and so you could be mandatory quarantine and not have any symptoms. The precautionary quarantine category is kind of a contact of a contact. It's a little bit, it's maybe family members somebody who developed illness and they had some contact with them early on in the game. It's sort of a stage where it's before we find out they're positive. And those folks, we do try to call them on a daily basis. We don't always get to those folks, but we try to. And as the numbers grow, we recognize that with our limited staff, we're going to get less and less control over those kind of folks. So that's pretty much what we do. I do have the legal authority to require somebody to isolate if they're positive, and I do have the authority to sit a police officer outside their door if they decide not to comply. And that has not happened in Columbia County. I think we've had a very cooperative 83 people that we're working with, and so far so good on that score.
Thank you. My next question will go to Sheriff Bartlett. How are the police departments and the sheriffs working in case one of the officers comes in contact with the virus?
Well, we have had officers having to go out and come in contact. All the officers have been issued N95 masks, as well as cloth masks that I want to publicly thank the public for making. We've got hundreds of masks that are being sent to us that sewing groups and other people, my wife's even making some of them, that we're giving out to people. And of course, a cloth mask, we're getting guidelines through DOH to wear. So if they do come in contact with someone, the guidelines have changed a couple times. As it was said in the beginning, originally guidelines were 14-day quarantine, stay home, be monitored, and go from there. But this is an ever-changing event. This doesn't change by the day or by the week. This is changing by the hour. And so if a police officer does come in contact with somebody, we're in contact with the health department. We speak with them. They're monitored. And currently right now, if they're asymptomatic, and Jack, jump in here if you want to add anything on this, but if they're asymptomatic, they would be wearing a mask and then quarantining at home. I think we're exempt from any of the guidelines that are coming down from the state as far as COVID time off and whatnot, because EMS providers, doctors, nurses, law enforcement, 911 dispatchers, emergency management, and there's a host of other people that are needed still on the front lines. So if somebody does come in contact, they're watched. One of my guys came in today with a mask on because he had contact with someone, but he'll actually tomorrow be able to take his mask off.
Thank you, Sheriff. One question that I got that I couldn't really find the information for, so I'm glad that we're having this panel, was in the governor's order, it didn't really mention anything about fishing and people taking their boats out for fishing. So I don't know if the chairman would have an answer to that, but the question I got is, many people depend on fishing at this time, especially during this season, to feed their families. And if there are any regulations around people fishing and taking their boats out for that cause.
I really don't know that answer. I mean, I do know that people are encouraged to go out and get fresh air as long as they social distance. But at this, I'm not sure about, whether fishing is allowed or not allowed. I know they just closed all golf courses as of yesterday. And so people were able to golf up until that point, but now they've closed those because people weren't social distancing on the golf courses.
Jack, do you have any?
Yeah. I haven't seen it in the governor's order. I would think that he's not going to stop people from fishing. I think that certainly we encourage people to socially distance themselves. That's why you can't have a fishing derby on during this time. But I think if there's a couple of guys that go fishing and they stay 6 feet away and fish, I don't see it in the governor's order that's prohibited activity.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to transition over now, and I'm going to ask Randall Martin if we have any questions from any of our viewers. While we wait on those questions, I'm also going to go around and ask anyone if there's anything that they're working on, any initiatives that they wanted to discuss while we have an audience right now. So I'll start with the sheriff. And how can the public support, your department?
Just be aware if a police officer, this isn't just the sheriff's office, whether it's the city Hudson police, town PDs or state police. If a police officer comes, they're going to, again, adhere to the social distancing. You're going to see them keep that 6 foot distance from you. And vice versa, if there's a police officer coming to talk to you and they're starting to get a little bit close, ask them, hey, could you please just keep the 6 foot distance? We're trying to maintain this. We're trying to flatten the curve. And this is a very, very important thing. One thing I did want to touch on and I missed, I've been appointed by the governor's office to be a Paws, New York point of contact here in Columbia County. So any complaints that come in will come through the governor's office and then down to me, and then I'll be distributing it throughout either zoning or building enforcement people or police officers in different jurisdictions. So if you aren't essential, and you do get a visit by a police officer or by a zoning officer, please just, take everything into consideration. We did receive a complaint on it. And as of right now, a lot of it is educational. We're trying to go out, educate the public. We had the last two complaints were, one was a hair salon and one was a park, and just trying to talk to the people. So it's, if you do get a visit like that, just understand, we're just doing our job, and just try to help us out too.
I'll transition now to Common Council President Tom DePietro.
Sure, Kamal. There are a couple of things worth noting. First of all, we haven't pointed out for the city in particular, the city website is a phenomenal resource during this period. The mayor's office has been updating it every day, and you can sign up to get a alert every time it's added to. So that's a great plus there. Unofficially, I'd like to tell about here in Hudson, we have Rolling Grocer, which, Kamal, I've been volunteering there for over a year, and they're doing a great job of providing food to the citizens of Hudson and following a very strict protocol for making sure that there's nobody in the store other than the workers who are, following the full protocol as recommended. So check out Rolling Grocer 19. You can pre-order online, and that's a great initiative that has really come into play during this time of crisis. Check out the city website. It's superb.
Thank you. The man of many hats, Mr. Keeler.
All right, Mayor. 911 does a fantastic job of screening these patients when they call in, but every once in a while, we've had a couple instances throughout the county whereby the ambulance crew has shown up on a scene to treat one of the victims in the house, and quite a ways into it, somebody else in the house would let us know that they were either A, under mandatory quarantine, or B, under voluntary quarantine. So if the public could assist us and help us out when these responders show up at your house, most of the time they do ask the question, is anyone in the house under quarantine? But sometimes that message is lost. And so if residents could help us out when these crews show up, if someone is under quarantine, if they could let us know ahead of time, that would certainly help. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman.
As you know, the county shut down their senior centers because of the safety of our seniors. But I will say that we're still feeding all of our seniors who are getting meals. And actually, we've signed up quite a few more. They're actually making frozen meals and giving a week's worth of meals at a time, just in case, something were to happen, people are still going to be able to get their meals. So I think that's, the Office of the Aging has been working full time. They've been working weekends, preparing frozen meals and other types of meals so that the seniors are getting their nutrition. Also of note, I just wanted to say that I saw something on Facebook the other day with the resource officers from the Sheriff's Department and the City of Hudson working with, at the sort of the programs where the kids are, where they're getting fed and where there's some recreation or daycare going on. And I just think it's a great thing. And I actually, the sheriffs they were social distancing, but they looked like they were having a lot of fun. And I just wanted to compliment Sheriff Bartlett on his people, actually stepping up and doing what they need to do in the community.
Thank you, Chairman. Jack Mabb.
Well, I think the first thing I would say is we post every day on our website the latest numbers that we have, latest information that we have. We try to be current on that. I would respond to the earlier comment in regard to not posting by towns, that I was attempting to be non-transparent. Again, it's something that I was attempting to do early on and just kind of got away. It got away from me. We post on our website like we do because we want you to have the current information and as accurate as we can make it. I would hope that people would go to that, and instead of listening to the rumor mill. This thing has really created a lot of rumors in there. Early on, we had rumors that we had 4 people, 5 people at CMH hospitalized with the COVID virus when we didn't have any in the county officially at that point in time, although most of us suspected that it was here, especially with the traffic up from the city. So again, try not to give in to the rumor mill. It can get people a little crazy. The other thing I would say is this weekend's going to be a tough weekend for social distancing. This is a holiday that we get together and we feast together and we enjoy each other's company. I hope that none of the churches are planning on live services. That's pretty scary business. I hope they're all doing virtual ones. And I think it's impractical to tell people not to get together on this holiday and enjoy each other's company. So I would more encourage people to think about the social distancing thing, think about the mask thing. I mean, we've changed our position in the county. Now all the county offices are wearing masks, certainly encouraging people to wear masks in public. And maybe it's certainly, I don't expect you to eat the turkey and ham dinner with a mask on, but I think, again, just think about that as you go through this holiday weekend and try to be safe.
Thank you. I'm going to take this time to kind of give out some information on resources. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, you can apply for a debit card to be used on food. You can call Catholic Charities at 518-828-8660 for help with application and recertification. Also, the Youth Center is constantly doing a food delivery. You can text or call at 518-409-9863. Get a list of local food pantries, and they constantly have information and flyers on other programs going on in the city. Also, the Home Energy Assistance Program, HEAP. Apply for support to cover your home energy costs. Contact Columbia Opportunities, 518-828-4611, or Catholic Charities, 518-828-8660 to apply. We'll be putting up a ton of more resources on the website as well. Before I wrap this up, I wanted to know if anyone on the panel had any closing remarks.
Well, Kamal, I did get one question text to me, wondering why there was no representative from the Hudson Police Department on our panel.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't know Sheriff Bartlett would be here.
I
So,
invited Sheriff Bartlett. I mean, we've treated this as a team in Columbia County, and the people that are on this call are our team, and they're the experts more than even I am. And if there were any questions in a particular area, I wanted to make sure the right people were available.
Kamal,
Yeah.
I should mention that we in the city have our weekly COVID-19 meeting, and the chief is always there and has given us a full report on how well our community is doing here in the city during this crisis. Crime is down, as it is in the county.
yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could add, the chief is also on the county briefings, the 10 o'clock first responder meetings. And I'm in constant contact with Chief Moore, whether it's delivering stuff down to the station or just going back and forth on different cases that we're working together. We work very close with the city PD, and you got a great man in charge down there, and it's an honor to be working with such a great police department.
Thank you, gentlemen. And also thank you to HPD. Like Tom said, we meet regularly, all department heads and commissioners on this issue and other city issues as well. So anyone else with any closing remarks?
Now, I just want to thank you for putting this together, Mayor. Appreciate it.
And I would echo that as well. Thanks for the opportunity. And I guess I would repeat what Governor Cuomo has said a few times. Don't let fear drive your decisions, or fear drive how your actions make the facts drive them. And I always like Howard Zucker's comments is, let's be apart now so we can be together later.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone on the panel for your insight. This is something that won't be the last time that we do. I want to make sure that we're constantly updating people, and it's good for them to see us all on the same page in a united front. I know times are tough right now, but we will get through this together. I want to encourage social distancing, especially as the weather gets nicer. Let's please be careful. And if there's any questions, please call my office, contact me on Facebook or through email or Instagram, however, and I look forward to doing this again. If anybody has any suggestions on who else should be on the panel, please let me know for when we have a date for the next one. But thank everybody for viewing. Thank all our panelists again, and stay strong, Hudson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kamal.
Thank you.